Maryland spring practice set to go on March 14th. We bring in Ryan Connors from Testudo Times, SB Nation for Maryland Athletics to break down the linebackers. And as you just let me know, and based on the defensive scheme, Ryan, not a lot of linebackers needed, so the depth not a big concern, but obviously you need playmakers at that position that can both, depending on the role, rush the passer, drop in coverage, and obviously stop the run in a run-heavy division. Shane Cockerville's an interesting case because he comes into a senior season, and if you just look at the stat sheet, you're looking at a guy that contributed more than 100 tackles, 8 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks, but his status up in the air at this point.
Right, and he did have a lot of tackles in his. This was his first year playing linebacker. He played his first 2 years at quarterback at Maryland, so that's obviously a rough transition. And he has the athletic skills to play linebacker, but looked sort of lost at times. And the thing coaches always harped on was his eyes and sort of, where should he be looking on a given play and sort of the angles he was taking. And I imagine if he comes back for his senior year, he'll definitely improve in those areas. But he was ruled academically ineligible for Maryland's Quick Lane Bowl. And we haven't heard anything else since. So that could mean he's going to be back, could mean he's not. But we don't know yet. And then next to him, the surefire starter is going to be Jermaine Carter. He's coming back for his senior season. He's been one of Maryland's, most productive players for the last 3 years. But he as well had a bit of a rough transition into the new scheme that DJ Durkin came and implemented. He's more of a middle linebacker type, I think, is what he would project in the pros. And sort of this 5-2-4 means, linebackers have to play sideline to sideline, and that's not necessarily the role that he's built for, but he's still the captain of this defense and is, smart enough guy that I think he'll make the necessary adjustments as a senior.
So, yeah, you got Jermaine Carter, and like Cockerville, over 100 stops for him last season, 9 tackles for loss, 6 sacks as well. So he rushed the quarterback, had an interception. So he's obviously, when I look at these tackle statistics, it's impressive that you got a couple guys over 100, but obviously that speaks to possibly being on the field a little bit long and during these 15 and 18 play drives and racking up some tackles. And obviously the offense not being on the field nearly as much as it needs to be, but it's a program that's on the ascent. So once we look at those two guys and then past that, what do we see in regards to the recruiting class coming in and some of the guys that have been on the roster for a couple of years that may need to step up?
Sure thing. So Maryland's bringing in 2 recruits at this linebacker position. Nick Underwood, who is he's a junior college guy who could be equipped to come in right away, and Ayinde Ile, who is he's a local guy from Maryland, who was one of the first recruits to commit in Maryland's class, and he's if you're looking for a guy to play sideline to sideline, he seems like he's going to sort of fit that bill. And as far as a 3-star recruit goes, he's definitely on the higher side of that. But he's 6'5", 205 pounds, which I think, if you're going to be a 6'5" linebacker, I think you're probably going to have to put on a little bit more weight than that. You definitely are. But, it'll be interesting to see whether that translates into, enough speed for him to play sideline to sideline as a freshman, or if they decide that, he just sort of has to take a back seat and just focus on improving his body. They also have Bryce Brand, who is enrolled early at the program, and he could end up being a guy who plays more defensive end or outside linebacker when they need it, or maybe he comes and becomes an inside linebacker. I imagine when he gets to camp, they figure that out a little bit better. But we'll get a look at him in the spring game on April 22nd.
Yeah, so between Brand and Underwood, you were able to get into California and nab a couple top linebackers, especially Nick Underwood, the 7th-rated linebacker in the country at that particular linebacker spot. And Bryce Brand, not nearly as highly regarded, but still, who knows what, once they step on the field, it becomes a whole new ball game at 46th rated at that specific linebacker spot. And Ely, number 24 rated linebacker as I believe an inside linebacker out of Maryland. So you got to feel pretty good about the group. Again, since you only need 2 on the field, it's not 3 or 4, and you've got the one stalwart in Jermaine Carter, and the recruiting, much like what we talked about at defensive line, is much better than what it's been. So it's going to be young, make mistakes, that sort of thing, but it's got to be hopeful for the future when you've got athletes that can compete on the same level as some of the teams you're playing.
Yeah, I think so. And I think when you look at Underwood's ranking, I think seventh linebacker I think means out of only the junior college recruits, but I'm not totally sure about that.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. Yeah, that's a 247 JUCO ranking. I kind of missed that detail, but there you go.
There's a lot of players out there, but I think he, just being from junior college, I imagine will be more prepared and more ready to step in. And I think it'll be interesting which, last year was Cockerill and Carter all season. And this year it's not going to be so black and white, I think.
Right, Ryan. I think you got an idea what we try to do here at Mark Rogers TV. So we try to cover everyone, and it's impossible. So we need guys like you. So I appreciate the breakdown, the knowledge, the information, and the insight. Maryland Linebackers.
Thank you. Glad to be here.